Let's have a look at another Hinderer. This knife here is not the one this video is about. This video is actually about this knife here, but I'm going to come back to this in a little bit and go through just a little bit of discussion about my Hinderers in general first. When I got into debating whether I needed a Hinderer, I had this ZT-566, and it was a great knife, and I kind of said, do I need a true Hinderer? And I had a friend that had an XM-18 3.5, not this one. This one's mine, as the case ended up going. But I had a friend that had a 3.5-inch XM-18, and I compared the two, and I said, wow, do I really need the real Hinderer when I can have this Rick-designed zero-tolerance knife? And I thought, well, this ZT is probably 80 to 90% of the knife for half the price. Has all of Rick's same design features, and in the end, okay, I don't need a real Hinderer. This ZT will be fine. But then, well, that didn't work out so well because I picked up this XM-18. This is a triple-aught design one here. You can see right there, triple-aught design Hinderer. And I picked it up, and this is a slicer grind, and I've liked it. It's really nice. From there, more bad luck. I got a 3-inch Spanto XM-18. And then I saw a deal, one of Rick's email blasts. I'm going to put this in as a filler here. I got a Warncliffe XM-18. And I didn't really like that one. I didn't really care for the blade shape on that one, just a personal preference. I ended up selling it, hence there's only a scale there. And then I think I'd seen these a while ago, but I saw that he had his Bowie blades. And I loved the shape of that, and I said, all right, I'm going to get one. And so there is my sort of Hinderer collection. Let's get the Warncliffe out of the way here. So there you go. There's the Hinderers that I have. Now, one of the things that happens with Hinderers is that frustrates people is that they get them. You get a couple of these out of the way. And they get them and they go to get their brand new Hinderer, and they're all excited about it. And they go to flip it, and oh, well, what the heck? This is an expensive knife. This is supposed to flip, right? Oh, why is it not opening? You come from the ZT land where, okay, granted this one's assisted, but this thing just flies open. And the other zero tolerance knives that have the KVT bearings, they fly open, and it's great. And then you get the true Hinderer, the Grail, and it doesn't. It's just on washers. And once it's broken in and you get used to it, it'll open just fine. I wouldn't say this knife is rushing to get open. I wouldn't say it's an aggressive opening. It's kind of a, yeah, I'll get out there. I'll lock out eventually. Don't rush me. I'll get out there. So once you get used to it, once it's broken in, it's fine, but it's not the super aggressive opening that the ZTs have. And looking at the ZT, one of the things that kind of I didn't care for was the lock bar. I tried taking the assist out of this, and I just really didn't care for it. And went with a true Hinderer. One of the things that the Hinderers have over the ZTs is the lock bar is much nicer. On the ZT here, it's kind of thin and not as easy to move out of the way. On the true Hinderers, it's nice and easy to move out of the way. And I like it better. All right, so that said, let's have a look at the actual knife at hand here. This one here is an XM-18 Bowie grind, and keeping in mind everything I just had to say about the flipping mechanism on it, I played with one of Rob Orlando's knives last year or so, and I had this knife with me, and I was kind of complaining, hey, you know, it kind of opens up, it's kind of lackadaisical about opening, and he said, here, try mine, and his just flew open, and they had increased the detent on them, and to overcome that detent, the knife now rockets open. So when I picked this one up, I was excited to find that this is indeed one of those new versions where the detent is increased, and this thing opens up like it's on the KVT bearings. This rockets open. This is not a lackadaisical kind of open, even straight up. Opens right up. So this thing is awesome as far as the opening goes. And as a benefit from this, I liked his regular ones, but this one I saw he had some new anodized knives, and this one has his battle blue anodizing, and I saw that blue and I loved it, and so that kind of sold me between the Bowie blade and the anodizing, and so I had to pick it up. I am wondering how this anodizing is going to hold up. I've had this for a little over a week now, and you can see right here that part that is most sticking farthest out of my pocket, which would tend to rub against things, it's starting to wear off just a little bit. So I'm curious how it's going to hold up over time. Any of you that have one of these anodized ones that comes in the battle blue and the bronze, any of you that have one of these, post some comments and let me know how the anodizing is holding up long term. So he anodizes all of it. The pocket clip, both sides of the frame. And aside from that, I did pick up some blue hardware, the blue standoffs, blue screws here. I need to pick up a pivot screw and maybe some of the hardware for the other side as well. But I really like the blue. This one came with the black scales. I also have orange scales. I can only tolerate the orange for so long. But this is the black blue. It's a really nice color. And kind of whole blue knife here. So let's get back into the blade here. One of the things with this slicer grind here is that it's technically termed the slicer. This is great for big, huge, heavy tasks like boxes and things like that. But if you're going to cut saran wrap, this was not the knife. Granted, I never sharpened the edge, but the way it came from Rick, this was not the knife to cut saran wrap, unlike my Spydercos, which are razor sharp for that purpose. My Spanto here, not too bad. This knife I think is my most carried knife because it's so small and still robust for a 3-inch knife. This one, however, is super sharp. I love the finish on this, or I love the blade shape rather. I've seen a different finish at Custom where it's more of the brushed down here, sort of a two-tone. This is just Rick's standard finish, and the blade steel on it is S35VN. Looking at the knife overall, just if you're not familiar with Hinderers, one of the things that frustrates me with Hinderers is he has a nice screw here, but on the other side, you in theory need his spanning tool. A proprietary tool from him you have to pay some money for. I found that actually I can disassemble this with a pair of nail clippers. 2 ways that you can kind of go about it. A lot of times I found that I don't even need the spanner tool. I can just do the one side here. But alternatively, if you do need something to stabilize this, these little nail clippers will fit right in here, and you can hold that still. It's a little bit awkward. You have to kind of hold it with your other hand while you're doing this. But for the most part, I found a lot of times just loosening it with this side is not a big deal. And then you're going to need the Torx bits for here. So I've got a little Torx bit set that I use. You can swap out the scales. You can get some titanium scales for this, which will replace both the liner and the scales. Keeps the same thickness of this. I didn't tend to carry this one a lot because it's kind of big depending on how you're dressed. This one so far, okay, it's pretty much the same size. I mean, it's the same size except for the blade shape. But thus far, I've still been carrying it quite a bit. The blades, comparison-wise, Bowie versus the slicer. And I really like the aggressive shape of this Bowie, and it came nice and sharp from Rick. Going over the rest of the features that Rick puts into his knives here. On the back here, it is a frame lock. It has Rick's proprietary lock bar stabilizer that he designed that stops the lock bar when you're closing it from going out past that point. Not that I think it could go all that far, but it stops from going out past that point. There you can see the lockup on it, and you can see in there, there's the detent, the ball there for the detent. When you close it, it gets right to about there and then sucks right in. And then again, when you open it, the thing just rockets right out. I love the new detent on this. But the pocket clip is tip up or tip down carry, whichever you prefer. Rick's logo on the blade there. It has the newer style thumb studs or blade stops compared to the older style. The newer style is more rounded off compared to the older style, which is a little bit more squared. You can get a bunch of scale colors. This one has the triple aught design with the fullers, sort of smoother G10 versus Rick's texturized G10. These scales go for $65 generally. In the hand, it's comfortable in the hand. Good size. It's got a nice big choil there. If you want to choke up, I'm not one to ever choke up. People talk about doing this, but you could choke up to there if you want to do some more fine cutting, I guess. There's jimping all on the top, jimping all on the bottom. There's jimping everywhere on this knife. If you have one of those issues where you're just one that sits around and flips your knife all day, the edge here is a little bit sharp. It will get your finger a little bit sore after repeated flipping. Unlike, say, where's the ZT? This one is much more rounded off in comparison. So I might like it if it was just a little more rounded off as opposed to being kind of sharp, but minor nitpick. Otherwise, I think that's most of what I have to say about this. There weren't a lot of videos on the Bowie Hinderer, so I wanted to throw one up so those of all you could take a peek at it, pick one up. If you see one, get it either with the battle blue finish, with the bronze finish, or just the standard steel. It is an awesome shaped blade. Absolutely love the Aggressive blade. Check one out, the Hinderer XM-18 3.5-inch Bowie with the battle blue finish.